Peace, family. It's your boy Gerald. It is July 29th, 2019. It's approximately almost 7, I want to say 7:30 in the morning, 7:29. Go figure, right? So I'm up early, as I always am. Got my coffee. I'm in the garage right now, and I hope the volume is picking up my voice. And you hear the birds chirping. Sun's coming out, and we're actually getting ready for another second wave of heat. Some of you guys may know it as the dog days of summer, but that's okay. So as I got up this morning, started my day, a thought crossed my mind, and I needed to put this out to the intended heart, intended mind, and let it resonate in your spirit so that it can reach you. There you go. He's like, what are you doing? There was a beetle was making a beeline into the garage, and just, no, you need to go that way. And that's kind of a synchronicical example of my point. You know, last night I had to work a little bit overtime, and I had to make a stop, bring family home. And as I'm driving through Norfolk, because a lot of you know I'm a federal employee over at the base, I noticed that a lot of the landscape in regards to the city has drastically changed. Some of us know that as the effects, the economical effects of regentrification. And as I was driving through a lot of the areas that was historically known for domestic problems, deemed crime-ridden, deemed undesirable, those areas have been changed. And the economical landscape has made that very clear, because areas that where you once would have to proverbially look over your shoulder, you know, you gotta excuse me, my mouth is not working. Look over your shoulder, or was deemed unsafe. That's not the case no more. And it is very, very apparent that due to economics, those are not factors anymore. And I'm throwing that out in the beginning, and I'm going to go back in my conclusion. But the first thing I need to ask each and every one of you is this: what does happiness look like for you? What does it look like? And how much of your happiness serves as a role for your future? And then with that being said, have you ever considered this? Your future is not waiting on you, but your reality is. So with that being said, we have to equate the fact of choice. Everybody has it. But a lot of times we do not see the importance of choice. Because a lot of times we get distracted in our reality. So as I was riding through the city, trying to get to my destination to pick up my loved one before I could head to the house, areas that I had not been through in a while, I was very surprised how development had been in effect the whole time, and how areas that at one time were demographically historical, that was not the case. And I remember the first time I saw that impact when I went home. And what I mean by home, I'm referring to Washington, D.C. And I remember how there were historically, through generations, of areas in that city that not only chronicleize historical landmarks, as well as had validity to your memories, had changed. So it made me think last night as I'm driving through and I'm taking note to areas in Norfolk, Virginia is what I'm referring to, how where there were areas that were dilapidated, they don't exist no more. And how economic access and accessibility was once given. And it made me ponder, it made me wonder, well, why did it take so long? If there was an area that needed whatever various needs, why did it take so much time to elapse before they decided to give concession? And then there were areas where I literally had to scratch my head and take in a deep breath because I was shocked how much it had changed. But then I realized that was nothing but an example of your mental mindset of what your reality is, and how that has a shoring-like effect to your principles, your values, your self-worth, and the perceptions on how you gauge it, to navigate through it. So it makes me go back to ask the question to you. What is the example of what happiness is? What is your happiness? What is required? And what is it that we must acknowledge for works that have to be done? Now, not to beat a dead horse, but those who have loyalty to a certain perspective that is found in their mentality or their mental state, they have a problem with that. They're the first ones that will tell you they don't like change because they're afraid of growth. They're afraid of stepping out of their comfort zone. They're afraid to possibly learn something new. And the real question is why? Is it because we have loyalty to what we hold on to, what we deem that has a value of significance? Or is it because it is easy to stay the course, to proverbially stay within a realm that simply works. No harm, no foul, so to speak. But the one thing that I've come to understand, family, is the future is not waiting on you. But your reality is. So therefore, we must acknowledge what is present. We also acknowledge what does not serve us. And we also have to acknowledge what must be done. I think really, when it comes down to it, some of you have already come to that conclusion, and it can be stark at times. For others, this is nothing but a measurement of growth, but also definition of your strength, as well as flexibility, without compromising of what you hold dear within yourself. So, how you guys doing this morning? It's Monday. You're getting ready to start a new week. New challenges, new examples, new breakthroughs, new validations. It starts today. And I hope that this past weekend you found rest, you found validation, and you also found reassurance, because that is owed. You've earned that. You've done the work. Yep, I got my big ass cup. But I was amazed. I was very amazed as I was driving through the city last night. And I noticed that as the areas I was driving through, how they were thriving. The nightlife was taking into effect, which meant economic growth in areas where once was deemed dead. But it is kind of bittersweet too, because it makes me wonder, well, in a town near you, in a city near you, in a state near you, in a region near you, if this is all about revitalization, because that is the direction a lot of your local governments are trying to do. They're trying to change the landscape of, especially from a commercial standpoint, the days of going to your retail chains like your shopping malls. They're changing it up and going to storefronts and brick and mortar. You're starting to see now that a lot of these areas where there were willful funding for entrepreneurship, why did it take so long? Because it actually yells, when you look at it, that the opportunity that once was afforded by that mom and pop location, they had their shot. And it's time to change the proverbial economic baton. And when you think about it, it kind of is like a slap in the face too. Because historically, local government is basically saying, we don't care about your memories. We don't care about what you've come to know. Because if it does not equate to financial gain, it too can change. It will not have longevity. But when you think about it, isn't that what reality is? Reality is always about forever change. History is nothing about having placement. it is only temporary for economic gain. And those who are going to benefit from that said change. Which is kind of contrast when you think about it. Let me put this in a better perspective. For some of you that will see this video, some of you that may know about the inner cities that have been reared in these said inner cities, you will notice that the demographics have changed. And it wasn't overnight, it was subtle. Long enough until the anchor could be dropped and locked in, where there was no turning back. And you're noticing that what was considered historical areas is only historically for you here, not physically. For example, why is it, I'm just going to use this as an example because it kind of stands out. Take the city of Detroit. Detroit has always been known as the epicenter for automobile production. Historically, it's always been that way, right? Then, as the generations come and go, the city collapsed. Now, I would imagine, because it's been like 20 plus years now, and it looked like there had been a civil war, like Beirut proverbially, and there were areas where the housing urban development had a program called the Dollar Home, where you could buy a dilapidated brownstone or house in said neighborhood for $1. And the kicker was you hold on to it for a year in the process of trying to renovate it. And if you stay to that commitment, you get the deed to that property. And what would end up happening is you would have people that had economic means would come in with a boatload of money and buy blocks and blocks of time, blocks and blocks of real estate, and they would show progress. These are your modern day slumlords, and they would do just enough, family, until the economic wheel would turn, that not only that the people that once lived in those said areas could not, because you can't scream, okay, this is racism. You can't use that term when it comes to economics. And you see this play out everywhere. And then said neighborhoods now have funding. And then said neighborhoods are starting to show life. Funding, things are starting to be revitalized. But what once was your neighborhood is not your neighborhood. And you can't live there anymore. I do you one better. I remember there was a time when I was 21 years old. And I had an apartment in upper northwest Washington, D.C. And the neighborhood area was called Adams Morgan. Adams Morgan would be the equivalent to Harlem but for DC. It was very eclectic. You had demographics from all over. It was one of those areas where on a beautiful day you could smell the fragrance of different various foods being prepared by the influence of that generation, you know. And I remember I had this apartment in this apartment building, and back then I paid like, I want to say like it was like $850 a month, right? Hardwood floors, lived on the 8th floor. From my living room, I had a perfect line of sight for the monuments. I could see it from where I was. Beautiful place. I just so happened to Google how much rent would be now, 20 years later. Same requirements, 2-bedroom. How much would it be if I wanted to move in today? From what was $850 is $3,700 a month. $3,700. When I realized that what you consider is your neighborhood is not. Because economically, it becomes property for those who can afford to be there. So you can't wave the flag of racism. You can't. Is it right? Nope. But if you don't own the building, you can't call the shots. And what happens? Slowly but surely, through property tax, this becomes the litmus paper of who has the right to live where they said choose to. So your memories may be priceless to you, but they don't have value to those other than yourself. That's why when you go home, you'll notice this. No matter where you go, you're going to have two types of people. Those who have compared to those who don't. Those who are making a way compared to those who are trying to find a way. And it also depends on areas that will have compared to those who won't. And that's why you see in a town near you, in a city near you, in a state near you, in a region near you, why there are certain areas that is always deemed unfavorable. You notice there's no support there. It's just basic. And granted, you may have your local bodegas there. They're going to be there. The liquor store's going to be there. Because guess what? They know as long as you're not doing anything, it's just like a pipe with a valve on it. There's always going to be a slow leak until you can't. Till it stops. And there's always going to be a benefit because of that. So that goes back to what I was saying originally. The future is not waiting on you. But your reality is. So you got to be honest with yourself, fam. Really. Because we are almost in the halfway point of our summer. You blink twice. For those who have children, you're going to be on that machine and you're going to be gearing up for back to school. I actually saw a commercial the other day that kind of subtly threw it out there. Threw it out there already. The next thing you know, we're back into another season. Preparation for the next 9 months of educational growth. So what I'm trying to get to each and every one of you is this. Yes, I know it's good to be methodical. But no matter how methodical you are, you also have to be realistic too. You have to. So the choice is going to be, what are you waiting on? If you're waiting on your environment to change, maybe what's required is you to change the outlook of your environment. Think about that. Because you'll be surprised that if you are willing to change your viewpoint, how your outcome will also change. If you're turning around allowing energy or set their energy to prevent you from smiling this morning, what does that serve? If you're waking up stressed, how does that benefit you? If you are, unfortunately, allowing something that you do not have control of to dominate your day, the only outcome that's going to come out of that is the ripple effect that will continue until you choose, my mouth is not working, until you choose to change the viewpoint of what it is. Maybe, just maybe you're not in the position to tangibly make something change. But what you can do is acknowledge it. Maybe that's all that's required. Maybe that's what's needed for you to be authentic. It's no different with the human dynamic too. If you're just waiting on somebody to turn a new leaf, how does that benefit you? If you're waiting for somebody to treat you a certain way, how does that benefit you? Now, I'm not saying that to give you permission to be spiteful or vindictive. What I am saying is, all this does is validate for you to speak your truth and acknowledge what is truth. Maybe it ain't your responsibility for them. First of all, you can't make nobody do what they don't want to do. But the reality is, you need to acknowledge this one thing. Why do they have the perspective that they do, and why haven't they changed it if they have value for you? Because trust and believe, when somebody wants to do something, they do it. So who's being held hostage emotionally? Who is proverbially still with the emotional shackles on their feet? Who is still carrying that emotional backpack because you're afraid of the unknown? You can't do that, fam. Let me tell you something. This past week, I had to attend another funeral. And this is nothing new because this is a process of life. But the message that I got out of that, because it did not directly have bearing on me, but indirectly it did, because it was a coworker. Unfortunately lost his wife. She passed last week. And the one thing that resonated in my spirit is, look here, life is too short and you don't know when your life is going to be concluded. So what is keeping you from your dreams? What's keeping you from them? What is keeping you from saying, you know what? I'm going to do this. Not, well, I will do this when. Just do it. Just do it. If it brings the best out of you, what do you got to lose? What do you have to lose? You have nothing to lose. It's all gain. Which means, as I said before, if you decide to change your perspective, watch your environment change with it. Now, there's going to be a price tag for that. Let me be real with you. Because some of you will have the stark reality of realizing that those people that you have given or granted access to you may not have your best interest all along. And you may have come to realize that they preferred you in that position because it worked for them. Now, this doesn't give you a right to be vindictive, once again, or be spiteful. No, those things, all that does is hold you back. But if you want to tap in your strength, if you want to redefine your foundation, just as Moses said, move mountain. That mountain proverbially may be your mentality. It will move. There will be a way given when there is no way. But it should not be at the expense of another day robbed, another day stolen, because you are not getting the response that you think you need. Maybe that's not the response you're supposed to get. Maybe what, oh, excuse me, maybe what was intended was the reality of, you know what, I know I've been on this road for a period of time, but maybe I was supposed to go on this path all along. Especially if it's constantly showing you that, hey, this ain't for you. Because you know what being stubborn does? It breeds stagnation. It validates procrastination. And guess what? It delays your destination. Isn't that what that's all about? It's about your legacy, fam. That's what it's about. So as you start your week, start it on the best foot ever. Make sure that this day, there ain't no stress. Even if it's something that ain't your cup of tea. Even if you got to go to work today and there's somebody that they just want to be toxic. They don't mind distracting you from what you need to do, because you're going to find plenty of people like doing that. And making excuses on that because of the outcome. Look, nobody owes you nothing. Nobody owes you nothing. So it's imperative that you take the road less traveled. Remember I told y'all, when you guys feel a certain darn way, read that poem written by Robert Frost, The Road Less Traveled. If that don't change your perspective, it definitely will give you validation of where you stand. But it shouldn't be at the expense of insecurity. Not everybody's supposed to know your story, family. Not everybody's going to earn the right to know your middle name. And not everybody's going to be able to earn the right to walk with you or hear you breathe. And I say that is because far too many times, what ends up happening is somebody will not make changes. And time marches on. And then one day they wake up and time has progressed such to a state that now they're bitter. And they're saying, if I was only younger, coulda, woulda, shoulda. Well, let me tell you something. Even though there may be some people they may disagree, and you're entitled to it, what I personally believe, as long as you got air in your lungs, you got an opportunity. You may be saying to yourself, Gerald, I always wanted to go back to school, but I think I'm too old. Who told you that? As long as you can cognitively think, what can keep you from being accounted for on that first day of class? Who am I talking to? Or if you're in a proverbial state where the job that you have, you know in your heart you've outgrown it. Now, there's no fun in it no more. First of all, why work somewhere where you can't, it's not fun? And I know, and I say that kind of loosely because some people will say, well, Gerald, I'm doing this job because it's a means. Yeah, I got that. But that doesn't mean that it's supposed to be forever either. Maybe where you're at is supposed to be a springboard to position you to the next door that you're going to walk through. But you got to have courage to acknowledge the door when it's there. Maybe, because I told somebody the other day, I said, look, just like relationships, when doors close, they're closed for a reason. But don't mean it's locked. Maybe that door is closed so you can focus on yourself. And by you focusing on yourself, other things will be your focal point of where you need to go. It also breeds appreciation. Like, I use it as an example. R&B legendary group LTD. The lead singer was Jeffrey Osborne. Jeffrey Osborne, incredible artist. He's been still out there on the road singing. And one of the songs that he did, I'm having a brain dump right now, but it wasn't. I want to say, where did we go wrong? What was the song? But there's a lyric that said, that he sang, it says, sometimes separation brings appreciation. So maybe the environment that you've been given so much support to, that's not the environment you should have been in to begin with. It shouldn't feel like you got to pull teeth to get someone to acknowledge you, because if they value you, they're going to do it anyway. Energy out is energy returned. And if they truly appreciate you, they're going to tell you what you need to know, because they're going to be living the example of where you need to go. Who's that for? Who's that for right there? I'm just saying, family, because I think it's kind of funny. I think it's kind of funny because, think about it. Queens, you know I love you. And I'm not trying to sound shady, but if you put the same energy as you do in your vanity, guess what? You'll also be able to see what makes you unique compared to the environment. There's a whole lot of people that want to look like everybody else, but nobody wants to be themselves. And they're too busy looking back than looking forward. You put more energy on what your body looked like than cultivating what your feet are standing on. Same thing with guys. You too busy looking at what she looked like, but you ain't looking at what's in your pocket. So it is about priorities. And there will always be a dynamic of what separates you from the fold. Just something to think about. So why you wake up this morning mad? Why did you wake up this morning feeling disenfranchised? Because, you know, a lot of people use the term the Matrix. And you know how the Matrix, they had the scene where, or I can even say Marvel's Doctor Strange. If you guys seen Doctor Strange, there was a fight scene where they stepped out on the street and the city started to, the building started to bend, and you know, that was representing time, the effects of time, really. That's what it meant, the symbology of it. But what was going on was, you had those who were oblivious of what was going on compared to those who were aware. And those people that were made aware were proactive to change. You got to step out of your comfort zone, fam. You got to. You got to. Because nobody's promised you're going to see tomorrow either. Let's be real on that. So with that being said, when you guys step outside your door today, please be safe driving on the highways and byways. Please be safe on that, because guess what? It's very, very apparent that when you look to the left or look to the right, 1 out of 5 people that you will pass or pass you will not be looking at the road. They'll be like this. And all it takes is, I'm not even going to speak that into existence. But you'll notice the hotter it gets, the more accidents we have. Have you noticed that too? That's not by chance. That's called being aware of your surroundings too. So be smart. Because the future's not waiting on you. But your reality is. Now the question is, what are you going to do with your reality? You going to personify it? Or are you going to just be a product of it? You can't complain if you're not willing to be changed. And that's what makes you priceless all along. Hope you guys have a blessed week. Love to hear from you. Thumbs up. Send these videos out to those who may need to hear it. Each one teach one. That's what knowledge is all about, ain't it? And just to throw out there, like I said, I'm trying really, really hard to grow my channel. And like I said, I intend on, once I'm able to give YouTube the requirement, because they say that you need 1,000 subscribers, then I can go mobile. Then I can actually take you with me, you know, because pretty soon, matter of fact, this week, I'll be in Charleston, South Carolina, family. And it's unfortunate because I would love to break bread with some of y'all that may be down there. I'm gonna be there for a couple of days. And while I'm there, of course I'm gonna do a video while I'm down there. And then on the way back, I'm gonna make a point to deviate my route, and I'm gonna hit the Smoky Mountains. And I'm gonna record while I'm there. I can't wait for you guys to see. There's this one waterfall. It's called Mingo, and I tried annually to go down there, and it's very, very, very. That's the Cherokee reservation, and every year I make a point to go down there. One, because of lineage, and two, it's a way of grounding. And I can't wait. I can't wait. So you will see that video this weekend too. So nonetheless, you have a beautiful week. Start out on the best foot, sidestep the negative, stay grounded, speak your truth. And don't let nobody steal your smile. Don't let them do that. That's an injustice. And look, you still got memories waiting to be claimed for this summer. Now the question gonna be, you gonna do that or what? Don't let nobody rob you of your summer. Don't do it. Be blessed.